culture of the business. It's all about encouraging people to be the best version of themselves. The business is a very flat structure, so you're never far away from being able to make a decision. And I think that's an incredibly important aspect to the business and probably differentiates us from a number of our competitors.
Welcome to the People and Property Equals Progress podcast, brought to you by Lambert Smith Hampton. Here we go beyond the bricks and mortar and take a deep dive into the fascinating stories behind the business. What makes LSH unique isn't the property market that they operate in, it's the people that drive it forward. The breadth and diversity, the imagination and the ambition of their people. Every episode, we'll sit down with an inspiring guest and they'll share their journey, their vision, and their passion. So let's get started. Right, we are starting the podcast with a gentleman that needs absolutely no introduction, but we will follow the format. He is the CEO, Ezra Nahome. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us what you are to LSH and what it is to you.
Wow, that's a great starter for 10, Chemmy. I like it. In the deep end, they're mucking around.
No.
Cut me in half and I'm red and white, which is a bit bizarre coming from a passionate Spurs fan. So
Yes.
I live within this conflict of blue and white and red and white. But LSH has been an incredibly important part of my life. I've been there 25 years. It's been a passion, it's been a challenge, and it's a pleasure.
And you were the backbone to many changes at LSH. You joined in 2000. You led that management buyout in 2007, becoming CEO 2009. I mean, that's a long time to be CEO.
It is.
And then this year, instrumental in the April Fool's Days acquisitions. I mean, I don't know anyone who has the confidence to make massive business decisions and execute them on April Fools. So I salute you for that. But how important is it for you to always evolve as the business evolves?
First of all, I'll say to you, it's a people business, so it's not as if we make anything. The talent and the success of the business are the people that are within it. And as I always say, in a people business, very, very difficult to stand still. Because if you stand still, you go backwards. So it's all about progression. It's all about growth. It's all about having aspiration. And it's all about having a plan. And I think particularly this phase of our growth has been a lot of fun. Because I can and the team, and I've got a fantastic team around me, we can absolutely dig into the experiences that we've gained over a meaningful period of time and always try to challenge ourselves to do it better, do it right, and land it better. And I can say that's exactly what we've been doing.
Well, let's go back to the very start of you getting into business, because you didn't follow the pathway that so many before. You didn't go to university. You followed your passions, and your passions led to who you are today, which is an instrumental figurehead of this business. So how did that come about from the decisions that you made very, very early on in your life?
So the great thing about this podcast and sitting in front of you, Chemmy, is that I have literally no idea what questions you're going to ask me.
Love the off-piste. Hey, we've had some great off-piste times together.
We have.
Now we are having some off-piste times together in a podcast studio.
We are. So hopefully we've got plenty of time to talk about me.
Yes.
Right? But to try to keep it relatively condensed, when I realised from a young age that the thing I really kind of wanted to do was to be an actor, which is a very strange thing to have in my mind. And then realising quite quickly that that wasn't really the career that I was destined to deliver on, I quickly worked out that education similarly wasn't for me. I kind of wanted to get into the outside world quite quickly. And that's pretty much what I did. So through an introduction, through my mother, I got introduced to a property company, a property guy. I didn't know anything about property in truth, but I jumped into it like a lot of things I do in life with 2 feet and thought, this is going to be a bit of fun. And in truth, I've never looked back.
It's incredible. And how is it being part of LSH when you've gone from some quite smaller companies, be it 25 years ago? What skills did you bring from those early years to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And in fact, it's the question I get asked probably the most by a lot of our kind of grads and our sort of new intakes, which was what was it about joining a bigger firm? At your stage in life. So I was kind of 36 or so when I joined LSH, which arguably is a little bit late in terms of the career path. And I had spent all my formative years in much smaller practices with ownership. So, my previous firm, I was the youngest partner. I was aged 25 5. Life when you're in a small firm is just a constant struggle because you're always playing against the bigger firms.
Yeah, David, Goliath.
It's always that. And of course, when you get your wins, it's really satisfying and all that good stuff. And, but in thinking about my career at that point, it was a very pivotal moment for me when I got approached to join LSH. And that, by the way, is a story in itself, which I may have not shared with you previously. And I kind of took the view that if I could do what I do working in a small environment, but doing it on a bigger stage and a bigger firm, I could do more. I could achieve more and I could do more.
Bigger difference.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it panned out. There's never been a moment of disappointment. There's never been a moment you looked and thought, actually, do you know what? I would have been better doing that. I felt very happy at LSH. I think the culture of the business has evolved, but fundamentally hasn't changed. It's all about encouraging people to be the best version of themselves. There's a lot of team spirit, team bonding, people coming together. And the thing that we enjoy more than anything, despite the fact that we're now over 1,600 people, is that the business is a very flat structure. So you're never far away from being able to make a decision. And I think that's an incredibly important aspect to the business and probably differentiates us from a number of our competitors, where you've got a much more hierarchical structure and you're much further away from making decisions.
Yeah. How important is it for you to embrace change? So when the decision came that someone offered you the job at LSH, if I remember correctly, you were in a bit of disbelief. You had a pathway you thought you were going to follow, and then this opportunity came and you didn't believe it. You didn't believe it was true. You didn't believe this offer on the table was actually going to happen. You challenged that offer, and it opened this door and this 25 years of being, sitting here as the leader of this amazing company. But going back to that stage, you've got a lot of young people coming into the business, which is something that you're very inspired to have, that next generation. You were that next generation, but it was something that easily you could have shut the door on that offer and that opportunity because it came at such a surprising time for you.
Look, it did, although it's a good few years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a very happy environment. I was in partnership with 3 great people. We had a great business. We were doing really, really well, and an opportunity presented itself from honestly left field. I wasn't looking for it. It was just so off my radar. I had my own plan. It was a very clear plan. And then this presented itself, and I kind of thought, why not? Why
Embrace the challenge.
Why not embrace an opportunity which does take you in a different direction, but it gives you a completely limitless scope and opportunity to evolve. And I think that's highly relevant today. It's the same. It should be the same for everybody, right? When you make a decision to join a business, it shouldn't be about next year, next month. It should be about thinking about, is this the right decision for me? Can I flourish? Can I grow? Can I develop? Can I make a difference? And I know some of these are hackneyed expressions, but they're so true and so relevant. And for those who join LSH and have really good careers, it's because they embrace that as an opportunity. And if you have that determination and not simply want to be one of a number at other firms, and I'm not saying they're all the same, but just be a number, then LSH is a great environment to grow and flourish. And it's something that I feel very passionate about, that kind of legacy of attitude and thought prevails today.
That's amazing. I mean, embracing fear is culturally something that a lot of businesses are afraid of. Taking opportunities through risks, some which might succeed and some which might fail. You and I bond over my life motto, I never lose, either I win or I learn. And I think that is something that you made that decision a long time ago, and you implement that into your business today. Like, in order to grow, you've got to take risks. And this year, taking on these 2 acquisitions, it is a massive change for the business.
It is. It's kind of landed really well. I think when it comes to corporate activity, it's kind of very easy to go out and think about buying businesses. But like I said to you at the start, we don't make anything, so it's only about people. It's about making sure as best as you can that there's a cultural fit, there's a prevailing attitude where you think that 2 and 2 can equal 5, and we've absolutely made sure that in the case of the 2 investments that we've made, that we've given it the best chance of the best opportunity to flourish and grow as part of our wider group. And that's exactly what's happened. I think both, hopefully, I think you're interviewing 1 or 2 of my new colleagues, and hopefully they feel the same way. But certainly from my interactions, it's been very, very positive.
I think it's so fantastic to put people at the core of your business. when everyone just sees you as property. It's like, actually, let's deep dive into that, and actually the people who make LSH are the people. And on that, before we go on to actually what we're supposed to be talking about, I want to say that I looked into this, and there's a Glassdoor review of you.
Oh no.
And 89% of the people at LSH approve of every decision that you've made and where you've taken the company.
Thank you.
And I think that is incredible.
Yeah. Great. I'm
Massive.
delighted to hear that.
That's
well
really
done,
you. So, right, now to give you the 3 questions that we are going to ask everyone today, and we're starting with you. I would like you to tell me about your favourite building or place in the world.
Well, that's actually, for me, that's super easy. That is the Taj Mahal. For my 50th birthday, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So we did a great sort of trip and tour around Rajasthan, but it was all centred around the Taj Mahal. I'd heard so much about it, I'd read so much about it, and it seems to have had such a demonstrable effect on people in seeing this. And I thought, how can any kind of building have that sort of effect? So I was sort of intrigued by it. And I had the privilege of having sunset and sunrise at the Taj Mahal on my birthday. And honestly, it is one of the most mystical, incredible buildings, property that I've ever been to. Every perspective is different. Every shone of light on the building reflects something very different, and it's very emotive, and it feels spiritual, and it was probably one of the most moving 24-hour periods of my life, spending time around that building.
So my father was a charter surveyor. We've talked about this, and I remember growing up and watching architects build buildings with the mini toothpicks, actually making miniature 3D buildings. And I just thought that was fascinating. And I think it's quite sad now that architecture is so advanced that they don't have to do that it's all done on a computer, because there was so much beauty in the detail of when someone's creating something with this, toothpicks or wood. Yeah.
Well, it's evolved even more, hasn't it? Because now even the CGIs,
you can walk into a room,
and it's all AI. I've been having quite a bit of fun using AI in designing spaces, and it's absolutely amazing what you can create. So it's there's another.
The evolution's huge.
There's another evolution that's right in front of us. Yeah.
Okay, talking about the change in the industry, but let's talk about a building or a place that has changed your life, and why.
Well, I'll bring it back to something again personal, and I guess for me, from a business point of view, when we moved as a company from Argyle Street to our last building on Market Place, that was a massive change, because it coincided pretty much at the time that we'd sort of grown ourselves up to become a business fit for a management buyout. So suddenly you walk around this building, which was, by any standards, 28,000 feet of floor space. You look around thinking, well, I've just taken on the financial commitment for this, let alone the business itself. I always have it in my mind's eye that Marketplace UK House was our sort of spiritual home, because we spent many a year and so much change.
Well, you had to start delivering to accommodate the space.
Yeah, exactly. Chemmy, I'll say to you, and I think we've maybe talked about this before, but when I jumped into the saddle of CEO in 2009, it wasn't really what I set out to do. It wasn't the career path I would have chosen. I think taking ownership in the business as an opportunity and help support it and help encourage it to grow more from a backseat was kind of where my head was at. But things changed, things evolved, and I just felt there was a bit of a calling for me. And what prompted me to do it really was that in the adversity of the environment we were in at that time, I kind of felt investing and buying into a business is one thing. That's a financial decision. But at the same time, you've got a business that at that stage had 600 people, that's 600 families. That's a responsibility. And actually, you kind of got to say, do you know what? I've got to step up to the plate here. I've got to try to at least land this business onto safe shore.
For other people.
Yeah. So for me, that was all about, how do I help? And the analogy I always use, that how do I take the ship out of a really stormy sea and get it into a safe port? And that was my motivation in stepping up to make that change. And every decision that I made, and there was a lot taken very early on, and a lot of them were really unpopular, because it was all about putting the company first.
Preservation,
And those were actually, looking back, they were all the right decisions. But at the time, you don't know it. You go with your instinct, you go with your heart, you go with what you feel is right. The point of the story is that in making those decisions to achieve that, it absolutely made sure that for me, I got incredible satisfaction by seeing the business then evolve, change and grow. And then eventually, opportunity was created. We sold the business to Countrywide. That allowed for a period of further growth, and then then the roller coaster starts. But the point I'm making is that sometimes decisions are not just taken for the benefit of your pocket.
Yeah.
Right. And in business, quite often it's about the pocket. This was a decision taken
for the people,
about people and responsibility, and how do you make it work for the benefit of everyone.
Is it challenging to have your goals with the business, but then have to be reactive to the environment around it, to have to change where you're going? You're going through a moment of growth, and then the market collapses. So actually, it's about survival. Like, how quickly can you influence changing the culture that you've put in place? Like, you want to be ambitious, you want to grow, and then there's a curveball of COVID, and actually, it's about surviving. How challenging is it for a business of this size to ride that?
That, I think, is part of the fun. Right? It's part of the fun, because it's the challenge of how are you constantly having to change and tinker and pivot, because that's the nature of what we do. I mean, there's probably a very brief moment where you can sit back and kind of go, well, actually, it's all working. And 2 seconds later, there's an issue, there's a problem, there's an opportunity, something happens. But, for example, take COVID, right? I mean, clearly none of us had experienced what the impact on business was going to be. And therefore, you had to kind of figure it out as you went along. My team, fantastic team, we very quickly realised that we were a regional business. How can you run a regional business when everyone's sitting at home? So one of the first things we did was we operated the business through its service lines, through the 15 different service lines. That gave us really good optics, and being able to kind of hold the reins from the centre. But more importantly, what it allowed us to do was to think about what could this business look like when we come out of COVID, whenever that's going to be. And that's what we did, because what we did was we used it as an opportunity to think about the markets we were in. What are the markets we want to be leaning into more? What are the markets actually we want to be leaning out of? And again, trying to strategize that through the period of adversity. But actually, for the benefit of the business, our performance, sort of particularly during and post-COVID, was incredibly good.
So you lent into the challenge. I mean, you don't welcome it, but you deal with it in a mindset where you're positive and see it as a growth. Right, and the last one. What building, place or city would you like to transform, and why?
I'm probably not the one to ask that question to, because I just think for me, I am very much somebody that tries to appreciate things for what they are and see the perfection and the imperfection in them.
Come on, Ezra, you must have been incredibly frustrated going somewhere and seeing the infrastructure and say, I would not have done it like this. This is what I would do differently.
Well, okay, if you're going to say infrastructure...
I'm going to make you answer this.
I mean, okay, when you go to Rome,
right,
and I have driven in Rome, honestly, it is one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. So would I change the road systems in Rome to be more adaptable? And yes, I probably would. But that's just a small observation I would make in being in the city.
I think, like you said, it sometimes you go to a place first time and it's so different to what you anticipated that you think about all this change that you'd make, and then actually you grow to love that as a quirkiness. So I've been to Rome a few times on jobs, and now I don't drive. I actually take an electric scooter, which means that I'm incredibly crazy, because the drivers there they have different rules to the rest of the world. But I feel like
I'm pleased you've had the same experience.
I can weave through. So I use that I am never driving in Rome to have a completely different, fun, slightly too risky personal experience. So it is a challenging question, because the world doesn't want to be the same. We don't want every building to make us feel the same way. Like, we don't need 100 Taj Mahals. That would take that preciousness away from the one that makes that impact on you. And that's what I think makes buildings amazing, because they have a different eye and a different reason and a different goal set for everyone. And actually sometimes the issues with a building can make it quite special too, if you reframe how you see it, and that's really synonymous with life.
I mean, homogeneous architecture does exist, right? And it's bland and it's boring and it's repetitive, and absolutely right. What you want to do on the eye is you want to see individuality, you want to see uniqueness, you want to see a culture coming through into design of good buildings around the world. And I like that. I like to see that.
With that, though, there's buildings and infrastructure that come about that always surprise us. So in Dubai, you've got the World and the Palm. I remember seeing the aerial views of those back years ago and thinking, this is insane.
Yeah.
But actually, I remember it. And in my sport and my industry now, there's a very famous one called the Neon Project in Saudi Arabia that is trying to build a snow resort in the middle of the desert.
Incredible.
A huge amount of issues, struggles with it. But it is quite amazing the creative that people put and change your mindset about buildings and what they can do and what they could deliver, isn't it? So all businesses need bright sparks. Who within LSH, I want you to name drop now, is that bonfire that you lean into, whether that's for creativity, support? Like, who in the business, I want you to name someone and tell me what they've done to support you to be who you are today.
Good question. I'm going to name two people. I'm going to name one person that's not here any longer and one person that very much is here. I'm going to talk about Dorothy, the wonderful, amazing, beautiful, incredible Dorothy, who shone on our front of house for 38 years. Dorothy was the most incredibly inspirational person, wonderful. Every client that came into the building remembered her. She remembered them. Every colleague that she touched, she had an impact on. And she retired earlier this year. And we held a drinks for her at Well Street on the roof, and well attended. But it's just not that. It's just when you talk about her, how people's faces kind of light up. So Dorothy, and Dorothy was here the entirety of my career. So I knew Dorothy incredibly well, and we shared many ups, many downs together. And I guess the second is probably Genevieve, because she puts up with my demanding ways at times. I think perfectly reasonable ways, but probably at times very unreasonable ways. And Genevieve never wavers. She's always around, and she always delivers. So Genevieve is exceptionally good. But honestly, Chemmy, we've got great people at LSH, and particularly the team around me, Massimo, Chris, Jason, Keith. I mean, they are, they're great people. Not only have we worked together for a number of years, but we've got total trust, confidence with each other. This year for me, I had an issue with my eye. I was off work for a couple of months. The team operated seamlessly. Massimo earlier this year, he snapped his cruciate skiing at the ski challenge. Again, he was off work for a bit. So I think what we've got is this very great interaction, trust and confidence amongst us as a group of people. But specifically answering your question, I would identify the great Dorothy and the current Genevieve.
I think, I'm very fortunate in this world to work with lots of companies, but what I've noticed from knowing you for over a decade now is that your professionalism is second to none, but you manage to narrate that with so much fun, joie de vivre, passion. I mean, maybe it's because the most time I spend with LSH is at the ski challenge, which is just a fantastic event, and I'm very fortunate to be part of. But it's just, you seem to tick every box. So many people put all their eggs in one basket, whereas you seem to know that in order to succeed in business, the people have to be present, they have to be happy, but most of all, they have to be passionate. Exactly. And I think that's something that I've really noticed as an external, someone looking into the business. So I think you've done an incredible job. Long may it continue.
Thank you, Chemmy.
Long may we keep partying on the tables.
Indeed,
at the ski challenge.
Yeah, look forward
to it. I know
we're
having a year off, but we've got some plans to bring it back home.
And I like the plans, so let's hold that in the box for a moment.
Happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ezra, thank you for being our first ever guest on this podcast. It's been absolutely amazing. I love speaking to people who I know, but hearing new things about them. So the surprise little snippets of your life that you've shared with us today, we really appreciate. And
pleasure. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to speaking to many of your colleagues and your team.
Great. Thank you, Chemmy.